right, welcome. There is, like I mentioned, I don't know if everyone was in here when I did, but there is a quick poll down at the bottom, just to kind of show your familiarity with EndNote. I will kind of come back to that and look at a few things. But if everyone can hear me and see the screen, fine. Looks like there's someone in the chat, so I'll check on that. So basically, what we're going to be doing is talking about using EndNote, and I'm going to start generally from the beginning. But before we do that, I will go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Alex Boucher. I am a research librarian. Let me go ahead and let someone in the room. We have a few more people, so maybe I'll hold on one second. Okay, it looks like we've let a few people in. So as I was kind of mentioning, my name is Alex Boucher, and if you just come in, we're going to be talking about EndNote, how to use the software program EndNote. This workshop is being recorded, so if you do not want to be seen in it, you can just turn off the video on your Zoom. It looks like, I believe everyone has the video off, but we will be recording, so we will be sending the video out. So if you miss something, you will have a link to the recording later on. There is also a poll at the bottom of the screen that just talks about, that asks one question about your familiarity with EndNote. Because the overall structure of this is I'm going to be going from the very beginning of EndNote, showing you how to sign up, how to go through all the basic functions to the more advanced functions. But the poll will give me a sense of your experience with EndNote itself. I will get to this in a second, but you can stop me at any time with a question. We have a full hour. I'm not planning on taking an hour as far as the demonstration, so there should be plenty of time for questions. But to go back to introducing myself, I am a research librarian at Gorgas Library. My official title is Research and Instructional Services Librarian. I am the library liaison to a number of areas: the College of Human and Environmental Sciences, the Department of History, and the Latin American, Caribbean, and Latinx Studies program. I do a lot of different things here, but one of the things I've become well versed with over my time is EndNote and how to use it. So that's why we're having this webinar today. As far as what we'll be doing, like I mentioned, I'm going to go back to the poll in a second, but my plan was a fairly comprehensive demonstration about how to use EndNote from the very beginning to some of the more advanced features. If you are not that familiar with EndNote, it is a citation management program that is, at least in my opinion, good for several things. One, it is very good for organizing and keeping track of your research, keeping track of all the things you found, organizing your references, and so on. And then it's also very good for doing footnotes, in-text citations, bibliographies, and so forth. As far as what I'll show you, we'll go from the beginning: how to create an EndNote account. And then we'll talk about the layout of EndNote, how to import articles and PDFs into your account, how to organize it by creating groups, which are EndNote's versions of folders. Then how to use EndNote's write and cite, so you can use EndNote within things like a Word doc. And finally, how to edit things like your citations and footnotes. So that is the basics of what we're going to be doing. I am going to go ahead and stop the share in a second, but I will talk quickly about Zoom, which is, this is not planning to be an especially long workshop. There's not hundreds of people in here. So if you have any questions at any time, let me know. There will be designated time for questions at the end of this, but I am happy to answer questions as we go. So you can literally just speak up if you want to, and I will also be monitoring the chat. We have a Zoom poll, as we mentioned, and also the session will be recorded. I'm going to take a quick look at the Zoom poll. It looks like 3 people have not used EndNote before, and 2 people have used EndNote, but I'm just starting out. So we are definitely going to start at the beginning. That sort of reinforces the decision to kind of go from the very beginning and go through the basics and build sort of a layered understanding of how to use this program. I am going to go ahead and end the polling. I am going to go ahead and stop this share. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen with a browser. So again, stop me if you have questions at any point, but we are going to start at the beginning, which is how to set up an EndNote account and sort of what EndNote is. So if you see my browser, which you should, and if no one sees the University Library's webpage here, let me know in chat or speak up, but you should see the University Library's webpage. And another thing you should see is the Office of Information Technology page. So as far as EndNote and accessing it, if you're affiliated with the University of Alabama, you have free access to EndNote. You can get it here through the OIT page, which I will share in the chat. You can also go through the University Library's website and click on Research Tools. And down here at the bottom will be the citation managers, RefWorks, and EndNote. If you click on this, it will just take you straight to the OIT page. I am going to put this in the chat, like I said. So if you want to create an account today, you could do that and sort of follow along. So what do you have free access to? You have free access to 2 different types of EndNote, basically. What that is you have free access to EndNote Online, which is right here. I might come back to this a few times, but it's not going to be the prime focus of this workshop. This is the free version. This is free to anyone, not necessarily someone that's affiliated with Alabama. It is just a free program. It is cloud-based, meaning you can access it at any computer. And you can use this in conjunction with the other version of EndNote, which is EndNote Desktop, which you can download right here. And EndNote Desktop is not free to anyone. It is free to you because you were affiliated with Alabama, but a normal person, so to speak, would not have free access to EndNote Desktop. That's the program I'm going to show you the majority of the time, is the more powerful version of EndNote, but you can use the 2 of them in conjunction, and I would actually recommend that you do, because EndNote Desktop is something you download to your computer, your personal computer, your work computer, etc. Whereas EndNote Online, like I mentioned, is cloud-based, so you can access it anywhere, and you can sync EndNote Online and EndNote Desktop. So if you found a reference one day and saved it to your EndNote Online account, when you got back to your computer, you could sync the 2 accounts so that the reference that you found and added to EndNote Online would show up on EndNote Desktop. If that doesn't make sense, just let me know and I'll go back through it. So I'm going to go ahead and show EndNote Desktop, because it is the more powerful version of the program. It's what we're going to spend most time today on. So I have this open. Actually, well, let me make sure before I forget, you always have to do a brand new share for everything. So let me share the screen with EndNote Desktop on. Okay, what you should see is a big mess of nothing, basically. You should see a blank screen that says EndNote X9. This is what happens when you open up EndNote, the software program. Because what EndNote is, when you get to your articles, what you're doing is creating or opening an EndNote library. You can click on File here at the top and click on New to create a new library. I will just open a library. So go to my desktop. You were supposed to save your libraries, your EndNote library, to something like a desktop, not to a shared drive or to a cloud storage system, something like desktop, downloads, documents, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the library. So now you should see more things. Now you should see what EndNote, the desktop program, really looks like. If anyone is not seeing this, just let me know. This is my EndNote library. So this brings up a pretty important point, which is how many libraries should you have? So an EndNote library is sort of the basic building block of EndNote. It is the overall storage of your references. It is your library, but you can have multiple libraries. And in fact, a lot of faculty members I know will create EndNote libraries for every journal article they write. I think that's not the best idea. It is certainly a doable idea. I think it's probably better to mainly just have one library and then to organize that library through groups, which are basically EndNote folders. You can see the groups over here on the left side of the screen. So I have multiple groups and group sets, and we'll come back to that. The reason why I don't think it's a great idea to have multiple libraries is you don't really have to. You could just have one library or maybe a couple libraries, and within those that library or those libraries, you could have most of your references and organize them through groups. One of the clearest reasons not to have multiple libraries, though, is if you are planning on using EndNote Online, because you can sync EndNote Online to EndNote Desktop. Let me admit someone. But you can only sync one EndNote library to EndNote Online at a time. So if you click sync on this library, if this is not the one that's tied to your EndNote Online account, it's not going to sync up with it, basically. If that doesn't make sense, again, just stop me and ask a question. It is not a deal breaker. If you want multiple EndNote libraries, if that just works better for you, feel free to go right ahead. In fact, a lot of people don't even use EndNote Online. But if you're planning on using EndNote Online, it's easier to sync just one EndNote desktop library to it. If you just showed up, we are not far in. We are just basically getting started. We show people how to download the EndNote desktop program. This is it that I'm showing. Let me check the chat. Can you put an item in more than one group is the question in the chat. Yes, you can just, once you've added references to your account, and these are just individual references, you can just drag them over to any group that you want and add it into any folder. So yes, you can add to multiple groups. And in fact, when I talk about groups, just think folders. Groups are just folders. That's really all they are. Okay, so the question was, can you please go over the syncing part again? Okay, sure. This is just with if you are using EndNote Online and EndNote Desktop, because remember, they're different things. EndNote Desktop, which you should be seeing right now, is the more powerful program that you download to a computer, is the one that normal people would have to pay for. EndNote Online, which is the one I showed you earlier, is just the cloud-based browser program that you can sync up to your EndNote desktop account. You do that, if you find an article up here at the top, you'll see a sync button. Why I was saying to only create one library is your EndNote Online account is synced to one EndNote desktop library at a time. Like you can go back in and change it if you want, but it's not super user friendly. But it only syncs to one EndNote library, because again, under file, I could spend the whole 45 minutes that we have left just creating EndNote libraries left and right. I could have 50 EndNote libraries on my desktop at the end of today. That would be bad. That would not be a good move. It would just be confusing, but you could do it. So why I was saying just create one library and then organize it into groups is because you could then just sync that library to your EndNote Online program, and you would always know the two are synced up basically. So if you found an article on EndNote Online, you could just hit sync library and it would show up here on desktop. In fact, I am a walking advertisement for this because my EndNote Online account is synced up to a different EndNote library that is hidden away on a flash drive somewhere. So right now I cannot sync the two of them. So I'm sort of an advertisement for do as I say, not as I do. Again, with creating libraries, you can create a few. I just don't know if I'd recommend creating one for every article you're working on. It's not, there's no real reason to. Did that answer the question about syncing? Let me see if in the chat. Okay, awesome. It appears that did. And again, if y'all have any questions at any point, just stop me. This is a fairly small room. We can be relatively informal with questions. All right. So back to this, the EndNote library. Again, this is your sort of basic building. This is your sort of basic overall. This is all of your references, and you can organize them into groups, which you'll see over here on the left, and groups are just folders. Let's talk about groups actually real quick. You can create them by going up to the top of the screen here. Up at this top of the screen, you have some things. File is mainly for libraries, but you can also import articles. Let me check the chat again real quickly. How to add institutions as author. I'm not sure. Let me come back to that. I'm not sure I understand completely the question. I'll come back to that in 1 minute. We'll definitely, I'm gonna go through and answer questions, but we'll also have plenty of time at the end to kind of go through and do individual questions. Let's see, groups. These are again folders. And if you go up here at the top of the screen, you have create group, you have create smart group, and you have create group set. A group set is like your overall folder. So if you click on that, you'll see over here on the left, it will open up this group set. And then you can just type whatever you want. You can call it thesis. If you just right click on that, you'll see there are no articles in here. A group is like a subfolder. So you can just clear it group, chapter 1, create group again, chapter 2, et cetera, et cetera. You can create as many subgroups as you want. You can even create things called smart groups. What this does is it sort of automatically sorts articles for you. So what does that mean? Let's say today I go out and I'm searching for articles about COVID-19 and mental health. I could go here and maybe I'll click on abstract. So the article abstract. If I find in here, I could type in a term like COVID-19. What would happen is if I created this group, and of course I could do other things. I could put like something title. I could do basically anything. What if I just left it like this and created the group? If I import any articles that have the word COVID-19 in the abstract of the article, it will automatically file itself into that group. So that could be useful if you're doing a lot of sort of high level research, you're finding a lot of articles and you're sort of trying to weed articles out to some extent. That's something that could definitely be useful for. We'll come back to that a little bit. And if anyone has any questions, just let me know. Let's see. So that's the basics of creating groups, which again is how you kind of organize the overall setup. So other things up here at the top of the screen. References. For example, you could add a reference yourself manually. You just click on new reference and you can type in the various information here. Now, why would you do this? Most cases you wouldn't, because as you'll see, as we'll talk about, you can automatically import articles in. Why you might do this maybe is if you have a sort of unique source type, maybe an interview with someone, something like that, an album, basically anything out of the just standard source types. You wouldn't do this really usually with like a journal article, but you can update things or add references manually. You can also import articles. Just click on File, click Import. You could either then add a folder of articles or you could add a file. I could just click Choose. Maybe I'll go to my desktop and just click on a PDF, and I could add that article manually. So it should upload, and in a second it will show up, and so here it is. And in fact, this is actually a decent example. If you can see on the Smart Group, it actually filed itself into that. I guess because this article has COVID-19 in the abstract of the article, and you can see it here. So Smart Groups are not something you have to do, obviously, but they can be useful if you're trying to kind of screen things, if you're trying to organize a large selection of articles. Let me go to the chat real quick and see what is next. Okay, if I want to cite from World Health Organization. So, all right, the question in the chat, how to add institutions as author. I'm facing problems to do this if I want to cite from World Health Organization. Well, are you trying to just like cite a Google, something basically like a web page on Google? It seems like
yes.
that might.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to know about if I want to cite some definitional terms like CDC or from the World Health Organization, then how can it be cited? Because when I try to write the name of the organization on author section, it's just showing that organization, then World Health, not showing World Health Organization. So it should be, if I try to do it on Microsoft Office Word manually, then the name of then would be like corresponding author or corporate author. But here I cannot find the section titled corporate author, that is World Health Organization. So how can I do that?
Okay, I would assume and I haven't seen this exact example, so I might have to at some point, maybe towards the end of this workshop, sort of try this out basically. But I would assume you could just add a new reference, and then you should be able to edit the reference here. On the button where if you clicked on article, either you right click or you go up to the top of the screen here and click on edit reference. You should be able to change all the information here. Now, maybe I'll have to I might have to just at some point see what you're trying to do. Maybe you could email me or we could talk about it there, but you should be able to edit basically any piece of the information here. Let me go back toward the screen and we'll talk more about editing references, but you can do that by basically just clicking on any article and right clicking and editing here. Now, if this is not working for you, if that's what you've done, I may have to just sort of talk to you about it outside of this and see exactly what's going on, but that should be where you can usually edit most of the information. Let's see. Okay, let's see where we were, because I'm going to continue on with sort of the general purpose information, and we'll go from there. So we've already seen like importing a reference. You can just do import a PDF. You can add a new reference here. You can manually add things. You can import PDFs, etc. But most of the time, when you are adding references, especially with journal articles, you're just automatically importing articles. So how do you do that? One, there are a couple of ways. One is that EndNote up at the top of the screen has its own online search. So you can just click on this and search for a search engine. So for example, I've already searched for PubMed. You can click choose, and then you can just start to run searches. I don't really recommend that. From my point of view, a database like PubMed, whether you find it on Google or you find it on the library's website, it just has a lot better search features within the database, but you can search from directly within PubMed. I would recommend that you just go to the actual database. So we'll go back to lib.ua.edu and I'll just show you a few quick examples. So for example, Scout. And Scout, in terms of this, you can just think in terms of if you've seen an EBSCO database. So Scout, Academic Search Premier, PsycInfo, CINAHL Plus with full text, any database that vaguely looks like, actually, sorry, I need to do a new share. I almost forgot. I was going from EndNote to a browser, so I will share again. Sorry, here we are. Any database that looks like this basically is an EBSCO database. And all of them you can use to export articles basically in the same exact way. So we'll just search for anything really. And when you find a journal article or a book or whatever, we will find a journal article. You can export your articles or references to EndNote in the same way. You just click on one, and then over on the right-hand side of the screen, there will be a button that says Export. And again, I'm just showing you Scout, but this works for the exact same way for any EBSCO database, which they all look like this. It will be on direct export to RefWorks. There's an option for direct export to EndNote Web. If you're doing EndNote Desktop, you'll want to choose direct export in RIS format. So then you just click Save. And I can go back over this at any point if anyone needs me to. And you can click this and choose EndNote or EndNote Online. And if you do, the article will immediately show up. And then you can just drag it into whatever group you want. Let's go back and show you a couple other quick things. For example, Google Scholar. Google Scholar you can find under Research Tools. Click on Google Scholar. If you type in a search, if you ever want to export directly from Google Scholar, you can just click on right below each individual article. You'll see a little quotation mark button that if you hover over it, it says Cite. You click on that. You can just click at the bottom of the screen, EndNote, and open it with EndNote, and it will immediately show up in your EndNote account. Now, I'm not showing y'all the EndNote account yet because I'd have to constantly switch sharing screens to EndNote, but trust me, it's in there, and we'll show you them in a second. Basically, the point that I'm getting across here is that pretty much every database will have a direct export button of some sort that you can use to export your articles to EndNote. If we clicked on databases, I'll just do a couple of the frequently used ones over here on the right, like Web of Science. And we'll just run a quick search. And then if you find an article here, you can select all of the articles by selecting page, or you can select individual articles and then just click at the top here where it says export, and you'll have various options. In this case, EndNote Desktop, and we'll go ahead and add that article. The final one I can show you is just Science Direct. Again, I'm showing you ones that look a little bit different. We'll run a search again. And here, all you would have to do is, it's very similar to Web of Science. You just click on the article or articles you want, click Export, and if you now don't see an option for EndNote, it's always RIS. And so at that point, I will have added 5 or 6 articles to an EndNote account pretty much automatically. So you have multiple options. You can manually add a reference, you can import a PDF, or you can direct export articles from a database straight to EndNote. Does anyone have any questions about that process? I'm going to reopen my EndNote library, but I'd be happy to go back to that if I need to show anything else. Okay, so you should see my EndNote account again, and what you'll see are 6 articles that I've just added. A couple of things you can do here. Let's go ahead. If you can see in my smart group, 3 of these apparently had COVID-19 in the abstracts. That's sort of handy that it just automatically sorts into there. I will just go ahead and click on all of these, and these are chapter 1 articles, we'll say. So I now have 6 articles in my chapter 1 folder. We've started to compile some things. You should see that it's relatively easy to add articles. Occasionally, like the earlier question, Google websites are not quite as functional with EndNote as databases are. You usually have to add references manually. You may have to edit them more. With databases, with peer-reviewed journal articles, things like that, it's a very easy, clean setup. So a couple of things here. For one, a sort of neat feature that EndNote has is, let's say you have these 6 articles. You can kind of hover over all of them. If you want to attach PDFs, you have a couple of different ways. One, you can just go up to the top of the screen here and click on this button that says Find Full Text. And this will literally just go out onto the internet and look for PDFs. In case, you'll see it at the very bottom left-hand side of my screen here. You'll see Find Full Text. It's a couple of them. It will say Searching. It will say for found PDFs, and it's still searching for one of them. It did not find one, but it just found 4 PDFs. So what does that mean? It means if I went back to this chapter, 4 of these articles will just have the PDF automatically attached to it. Like this one looks like it does. If you see over on the right-hand side, you can just click on this, and there's the article. So it's just, I don't know exactly how it works. It just goes out into the internet, it finds the text of the article, it attaches them, and so you have it here. If it does not find the PDF, like we'll show, so this one you can see, if it has the PDF over on the right-hand side, you'll see the article title here. If it doesn't, it will just have nothing there. You could download the PDF yourself through the database and just right-click on the article and File Attachments, Attach File. With these, it's actually a pretty good PDF viewer over here on the right. You click Open PDF. Hopefully I don't have to do a new share for that. You should be able to see the entire article here. You can scroll down. You've got the article. You can do a couple of things over here. You can print it. You could email it. You've also got a highlighter, notes, etc. So it's a pretty good PDF viewer. I tend to use it to read PDFs fairly often, and it is a pretty neat trick about how it just automatically finds the PDFs for you. Let me check the chat real quick and see if there are any questions. It looks like there are not. Again, stop me if you want. I may kind of push off some questions to the very end so we can kind of get through most of this and then answer questions, but feel free to ask questions at any point. Let's see. Oh, also up here at the top, you have your output styles. We'll get into that more with doing cite while you write in a Word doc, but you have a number of output styles here. And if you can't find yours, you can click select another style, and it's tough not to find yours. I mean, maybe if you are submitting to a journal that has their own, it's possible that you wouldn't be able to find in there, but it has a lot of styles basically, and it's sort of difficult not to find the one that you're looking for. But we'll get into that more soon. All right, let's see. A couple of things, I don't know if we'll go through this, but sometimes if you were having problems with a reference, so for example, over here on the right, you see the PDF, but if you just click on reference, you'll see the actual reference viewer basically. Let's get, well, I don't know if we need to show you this. Basically, if you need to edit a lot of references at once, you can do that in a number of ways. The easiest way to edit a reference is just to right click on it and click Edit Reference button. And then you can change basically anything you want in here. Sometimes when people will import hundreds and hundreds of articles, they'll come across something where maybe the journal titles or something are just sort of comprehensively wrong for a lot of their articles. And not like it's the wrong journal, but maybe the journal titles won't be abbreviated, or they will when they're not supposed to. Basically, if you ever come across that problem, one, you can just contact me and I'll walk you through that. But one thing to remember is the way to fix that to some extent is to click on Tools and open term lists. And then Journal term lists. This is a very long, drawn out process. Well, I mean, it's not that long drawn out, but it's pretty long and drawn out for a workshop. So I don't think we're going to go through it. But basically, if you have a lot of messed up journal titles, you could just click Control-A, cut these, just get rid of them, and then close it out, and then redo it, basically. Open term list, journals term list, and just basically do new terms and add your terms back in. Again, it's sort of a long process for a workshop, but if you're coming across that problem and you need some help with it, you will have my contact information and I can help you with that. But in general, if you just need to edit a reference at a time, it's relatively easy. You just click on right click, click edit reference, and you can edit the journal title, you can edit author information, anything. So that's the basics of that. And in fact, I think we have kind of gone through most of this part of it, and I am going to transition over into a Word doc to show you how to do the in-text citations and things like that. So I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to open a Word doc, and I'm going to do another share with that. And okay, so here you've done all your research and you're really just writing the paper. In this case, I just have some nonsense that I'm going to use to show you how to do the in-text citations, footnotes, endnotes, bibliography, etc. So if you open Word, you will have to go into Tools on EndNote and download the EndNote Cite While You Write program. It's not especially hard, but once you do that, you should see up at the top of your Word doc ribbon something that says EndNote X9. So this is where you basically have incorporated EndNote into Microsoft Word. So a couple of things. Up at the top, you have APA 7th. You can change that to whatever citation style you're using. We'll just leave that. And adding footnotes, in-text citations is relatively easy. You have two ways of doing it. One, you can click on Insert Citation, or you can click on Go to EndNote. I'll just choose Insert Citation for the first one. You can choose Insert Citation again. And the way they do this is you just search for something up at the top of the screen. So you could search for an author's name, you could search for a keyword, you could search for a title. Since I just imported some articles about COVID-19, I'll just do that, and it'll find all the articles that come up for that. You can just find the one you're looking for, click Insert. You could hold down this, and it gives you various options for like excluding author, maybe if you've cited something a couple times in a row. I'll just do the normal insert. And then this is APA 7th, so it'll give you the in-text citation in format the bibliography at the same time. If you're doing multiple citations and the same thing, you can just go back to insert citation again. This time I'll search for an author. Click on this, click on insert, and it will add the citation to this in-text citation and add a bibliography format. So those are relatively the basics. I mean, you can try a different style, maybe like AMA. It will automatically update it with the different system that AMA uses. You can have footnotes instead of in-text citations, etc. The other way is just to click on Go to EndNote. In that case, it just takes you right back here. You go to whatever group you're using. You click on whatever article you want. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Click on it and go up to the top of the screen and find the little quotation mark where it says insert citation, and it will add another citation that way. So two different ways of doing it. They both do the same thing. I tend to use just the insert citation, but that's probably just a personal thing, and some people probably do the exact opposite. One thing to note, let's go back and add another citation. We'll go to the middle of the paragraph and we'll just find anything and add another citation. If you need to edit your citations, in fact, I'm going to change this just to show it a little bit better. I'm going to change it back to APA. If you need to edit an in-text citation or a reference or anything, all you need to, what you don't need to do is to do things manually, like to go into here and start typing stuff. Like you don't want to just like type in page numbers or things like that. You want to use EndNote's tools, because otherwise it will sort of get corrupted and it will not look right. So to edit a citation, you just hover over it, go up to the top here to edit and manage citations. You can find the one that you want to cite, and usually all you need to do is go to here to formatting and change this. So for example, if you want to exclude an author because you've cited it multiple times, you could do that. Here you can add page numbers, 12, click OK, and it will automatically change the citation. There are a number of other options on here. You can edit the reference in your library, like the overall reference. But just remember, if you're editing a citation, use their tools. Do not just type. And also, if you are moving citations around or moving paragraphs around, like you've gotten to the point where you're writing a paper and you just need to kind of chop and change things and move paragraphs around, you need to sort of use their tools for that too, because it will not edit and update correctly if you just sort of cut and copy and paste. If you want to move a paragraph around, like if you were taking this paragraph and moving it 8 paragraphs down, you would just hover over it, click on Convert Citations and Bibliography, convert to unformatted citations. So it will look a lot different now. And then you could take this whole thing, copy it, go down to wherever you're putting it, paste it in, hover over it again, and click Update Citations and Bibliography. So the point with all of that is when you were editing individual citations or you were editing whole paragraphs and moving stuff around, use their tools. Otherwise, it will just sort of, things will fall apart a little bit. It just does not, it does not update correctly if you do not use your tools. If you ever need to move anything around, convert to unformatted and then move things and then update. If you ever need to manage an individual citation, just hover over it and click Edit and Manage Citations. I believe that is about all I have. We actually went a little bit farther than I thought we would, but we still have time. So I believe I've covered relatively from the basics through some of the more advanced stuff that you need, but there are questions that people have. So if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask. You can just unmute or you can put them in the chat bar. And if you have a specific thing, oh, sorry, it seems like somebody's unmuting. I was going to say for the person that, like, if you have a specific thing, also give me my email so you can send me an example and I can look at it after this and reply to you through email. But if anyone has any questions, just feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, can you show me the footnote on this in-text citation?
Okay, let's show you the footnotes.
Yeah.
Okay, what style are you using?
APA.
Okay. So with APA, you just click on Insert Citation, Let's see, I haven't done an APA footnote in a while, so let me make sure that I'm doing this right. Where is it? No, I guess EndNote APA usually does in text. So let's see. How do you do a footnote for APA? I know you do it for things like Chicago and stuff like that. That's a good question with APA. I may have to help you out with that also outside of this. I don't know that I've ever done a footnote in APA. So I know that if you were in like, let me see real quick if I can see another example. Let's do Chicago. Chicago is already on footnotes. So it just, I guess, immediately puts them down. Or sorry, where is the footnotes for Chicago? Yeah, hold on 1 second. I'm not sure what it's doing actually. I may have to just come back to that and email you outside of it because I'm not sure. It's not doing footnotes right now correctly. So I might have to just get back to you on that one. That's very strange. Does anyone else have any questions? I have all of y'all's emails, so I'll just respond to you about that outside of this, or respond to everyone, because I know you can do footnotes. It's just not seeming like it's doing.
I have a question. I've written down in the chat there.
Okay. Oh, in the chat. Okay, I will check that. How about if you already have a written manuscript, can you still convert it to EndNote? Okay, so there are two questions. One, will this be available to rewatch? Well, it's recording right now, so it has to finish up recording. That should be not too long. It will upload it, and then I will just upload it to YouTube and send out a link. So y'all should have the link to rewatch this by Friday at latest, but probably by tomorrow. So how about if you already have a written manuscript, can you still convert it to EndNote format? Yes, you could just, do you already have all of your citations in there, or have you done citations already, or do you just basically have the text of a written document?
It's a written document. I already finished writing my manuscript.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can just add EndNote to a Word document. And then if you have open up the Word document, your EndNote tab will be up here at the top of the screen. So you can use EndNote to add your citations. You will have to add those references to your EndNote account first. Like the references that you used to write your manuscript originally, you will have to add to your EndNote account. Through the various ways that we basically talked about earlier, through manual entry, through uploading PDFs, through exploring from databases. Once you have the references in your EndNote account, then you can just add the citations as you go. Or you can just hover over a paragraph that may already have citations and convert those citations to unformatted and then update them basically. So yes, you can take an old manuscript and use EndNote to add citations to it, but you have to have the references in your EndNote account first. Does that answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at that point, then it's just like adding any citations basically. It's just going through here and using the EndNote X9 insert citation button to add your citations that way.
Yeah, one more question I wanted to ask is, you know, let's say you found information from a website which is not attached to, where you cannot directly export to EndNote. So how would you include it in EndNote, do you need to type it manually, or how should I do?
The best way for websites on EndNote, and let me do another share and just open EndNote back up again, is to manually add the reference. It's just the easiest way to make sure you've got everything right. If you go up here on your EndNote account, again, EndNote is set up more for working with databases, but you can just go up here to references, click on new reference, go up here to reference type, find some web page down here at the bottom, and then there will be a number of categories. You can add an author if there's an author, publisher, etc. There's all sorts of basically entry points that you can add the associated entry. It's not quite as convenient as going from a database. The one thing I'll say as sort of a workaround with that to some extent is you might be able to find some of the website articles that you want to add to EndNote. You might be able to find those on something like Scout, or even maybe in some cases Google Scholar. So because something like Scout, which I'll stop share and go back to that. Let me open up a browser real quick. Scout, which is on the library's homepage, which is, I'll go back to, does include a lot of magazine, newspaper articles, things like that. It's right here. You may be able to find the Google article that you wanted to put in EndNote. You may be able to find it by just typing the title into Scout, in which case you could just do the direct export from Scout. You also might be able to find some website articles on Google Scholar, even though Google Scholar is more for journal articles. You may be able to find some things on there as well, and they also have a direct export. But if you can't, then you can always fall back on doing the manual entry.
Yeah, while I'm citing from the organization, as mentioned, that I can cite this in text manually, but whenever it is showing on the reference section, also we have to do it probably manually, because in text citation as is put as manually, it's also showing that I have to put that reference like CDC as manual. So can you please sorted that out? That how can we cite the organization as corporate author?
I'm not sure if I'm on the same page. So you're talking about citing a web page article. Have you put that into your EndNote account? Like you've added the reference for it?
Yes, I already tried several times, but it's not working.
Okay. Tell you what, I'll go ahead and give you my email address. I can email you after this, and maybe just send me the thing you want to cite, and I will try to help you, walk you through how to do that. There should be a way. We'll just have to figure it out.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Well, I will go ahead and share again just the PowerPoint slides I have just to wrap things up. Questions, we've already done that. Some contact information, although I have y'all's contact information, so I'll be sending out the recording as soon as it is ready. Like I said, I'm located at Gorgas Library, though. My contact information, taboucher@ua.edu. I'm also all over the library's website. So if you have a question, just let me know. And I will get back to you about the website. But unless anyone else has any questions, does anyone have a final question? Let's see, there's something in the chat. I'll check that. All right, it seems like maybe no one has any questions left, so that is almost a full hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate y'all coming. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll be in touch with the video link, so if you have any extra questions also then, just let me know.